Hello, Eric here. I just got through watching a really cool video by Tim Camisa. I had an opportunity to meet Tim a couple of years ago at the Midwest Fly Expo up in Warren, Michigan. And I just want you to know Tim is as great a guy in person as he appears to be on his videos. He went out of his way to come over and introduce himself and made me really feel at home. I got a big kick out of this video. It's got a sucker spawn fly on the front of it, and he talks about why in trout fishing he's uncomfortable fishing flies like sucker spawn, San Juan worm, etc. I've in my fly fishing career, I've taken that to the nth degree. I'm one of the last of the dry fly purists. It's not something I'm proud of. I'm not going to say I'm as pure as the driven snow. I'm not going to say I've never fished a streamer, never fished a nymph. I will say, though, that I'll go to the ends of the earth to fish a dry fly. I'll fish a dry fly when it's an incredibly bad idea. Spend a day or multiple days doing it, and am very happy doing it. It's something I enjoy very much and love. And this video, I hope, will go to, in some part, explain why this is the case. There, got the audio straightened out. Sorry about that. Oh, by the way, if you ever do YouTube videos, hit record. It's very important. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Dry Fly Purism. Why am I a dry fly purist? Well, first of all, with Tim's video, I read some of the comments below and I was a little taken aback. A lot of people seem to think that dry fly purists were snobs, thought they were better than other people. Now, am I a snob? Do I think I'm better than other people? Well, yeah, sure, but I've got an ego and a half. That has nothing to do with my dry fly purism. I'm a dry fly purist fundamentally because I read a few too many books when I was a kid. We had a great library in Plattsburgh, New York, where I was brought up. And we had all kinds of books in there. A lot of them focused on the Catskills. This wasn't Catskill book, but Dry Fly and Fast Water by George LeBranch leaps to mind. And they all glorified dry fly fishing and matching the hatch, etc. And but throughout these books, there was an ethos that I've always subscribed to. And that ethos is the idea that fly fishing is a sporting way to fish. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a sporting way to fish that gives the fish a fighting chance. We all know that fish will take bait readily. And at that point, it becomes too easy. And I just love the challenge of fly fishing. And I enjoy the challenge more than I enjoy catching fish. Sure, I like to catch fish, but on my list of reasons why I fish, catching fish is well down the list, I'm sorry to say. And this is just me. I fully expect that no one else in their right mind subscribes to this notion. But I like the challenge, and I like it so much that I will, if things are too easy, I'll try to make it harder. One day I was out on the Mad River, and it was late in the season. It was probably early September, and I had found a brush pile, very small little pile of brush that had been good to me over the summer. So I went there, and sure enough, there was not a huge fish, maybe a 15-inch brown, rising regularly. And I'm thinking, oh, this is not going to be a problem. I'm going to catch this fish, no issues. And there were some olives hatching, and I tried various and sundry flies for maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes. It was a while. And this fish just wouldn't look at anything. I tried. Midges dropped off the back of a dry, various and sundry things. Now, he was in a tough spot, wasn't far from the brush pile, and, it was easy to get drag, but I had compensated for that and put a number of good drifts over this fish to no avail. And as time went on, I got more and more pissed off and ultimately put on an ant. Now, to my credit, I didn't put the ant on first thing. I waited until things had gotten really bad. And sure enough, caught the fish. But that's the sort of thing that I like to do. I like to try to match the hatch. Did I see a lot of ants in evidence? No. Did I know in my heart of hearts that if I put a decent drift over the fish with an ant, the fish would take it regardless? Yes. I've got to be honest, I didn't feel all that bad about using the ant there. The entire Dry Fly Purist thing, trying to fish in a sporting way can be carried too far. Over the years, Dry Fly Purism has been vilified. Frederick M. Halford, who was the original champion of Dry Fly Purism, has been vilified. And in some ways, I think justifiably, but in some ways not. And let me read a couple short things here from his book called Dry Fly Fishing, which kicked off Dry Fly Purism back in the late 1800s. He says, the purists among dry fly fishermen will not under any circumstances cast except over rising fish and prefer to remain idle the entire day rather than attempt to persuade the weary inhabitants of the stream to rise at an artificial fly unless they have previously seen a natural one taken in the same position. Now, I don't subscribe to this. I do a lot of what I call blind dry fly fishing. I started doing this on the Saranac when I was a teenager. And I would just fish a dry fly whether fish were rising or not. And fish on the Saranac would readily take the dry fly. They would come out of nowhere and hit it. And I've seen that on other rivers. Now, there are rivers that I've fished where this sort of prospecting with the dry just doesn't work. So many days you can go fishless on those days if you're just fishing a dry and there's no rising fish. A good example, I think, might be Henry's Fork. I just don't see prospecting with a dry fly there. And what we do at Henry's Fork is just what Halford prescribes. We sit around all day, or we're actively walking, looking for a rising fish. It's about the only way to fish the ranch or Pine Haven, Millionaires, places we like to fish. I'm sure there are exceptions. There always are to every rule, but that's what we've found. But this would imply a little bit of snobism and maybe encourage some resentment on people who love to fish nymphs, streamers, whatever. But here's something else that Halford says in the same book. And this is why I think he's criticized unjustly. This is kind of a long, somewhat boring paragraph, but I'm going to read it because it's important. He says, in treating the advantages of dry fly over wet fly fishing, I am most desirous of avoiding any expression which should tend to deprecate in any way the skill exhibited by the experienced and intelligent followers of the wet fly. Now, in his day, there were dry flies and there were wet flies. Nymphs, yeah, I think maybe they fished some grubs. I don't know. But typically, most of the fly fishermen in his day were wet fly fishermen only. Depending on at least where trout were concerned. He goes on to say they require, talking about wet fly fishermen, they require not only the most undoubted judgment of the character of the water frequented at various times of the day and season by feeding fish, not only a very full knowledge of the different species and genera of insects forming the food of the fish, not only a full perception of the advantages of fishing upstream under one set of conditions and of fishing downstream under others, but in addition to all this, great skill in placing their flies accurately in the desired position and allowing them to drift down in a natural manner and without any drag or check over the precise spot they wish to try. There is far too much presumption of superior scientific knowledge and skill on the part of the modern school of dry fly fishermen, and I should be the last to wish to write a line tending to encourage this erroneous assumption of superiority or to deprecate in any way the patience and perseverance coupled with an intuitive perception of the habits of the fish requisite for a really first-rate performer with the wet fly. And this is exactly the way I feel about nymph fishermen, streamer fishermen, bait fishermen. If you're out there having fun fishing in any way, shape, or form, I'm fine with it. The reason I fish the way I fish is because I have fun doing it, and it's what I like to do. It's what I grew up doing. I really am not good at other kinds of fly fishing. The worst nymph fisherman in history, got to be right up front about that. I do enjoy fishing a wet fly occasionally, but regardless, it's what I like to do, and you should do you, not me. One more quick story. I was out at Henry's Fork one day, and I was at Bonefish Flats, which is this kind of enormous, shallow lake that's been formed by the river broadening out there, and it's huge. It's like a small lake, and it's anywhere from knee deep to thigh deep, and there are big rainbows there, and they like to cruise, which makes the fishing very, very difficult. It's completely flat water, and a lot of fun to fish, that's for sure. And there's a riffle I like to fish. It's formed by the currents between a couple of islands. And as you come out to Bonefish Flats, the way we get there, it's sort of off to the right between these two islands. And I was headed there, but there was somebody in there fishing, and I thought, well, I'll kind of go down there in that general area and do some fishing, and maybe they'll move out at some point and I'll be able to fish the riffle. Well, as I got closer, I looked at the fisherman, this big, tall, skinny guy, and I realized it was Eddie Pinkston, who's an absolute legendary fly fisherman. And as I got closer, I could see Eddie kind of giving me the evil eye, and I certainly didn't want to infringe on his fishing at all. And I kind of asked from a distance, I said, would it be all right if I fished the channel to my right, pointing in the direction of the channel? And he said, oh yeah, sure. So I went up the channel a little ways and started fishing, but really what I wanted to do was see Eddie in action. And so I'm out of the corner of my eye, I'm watching Eddie, and he's working on a fish. And this fish is rising just regularly, and Eddie cannot get this fish to take. And he's trying everything, and it's just perfect drift after perfect drift. He's changing flies, and shortly after I get there, the fish then starts to move. Well, Eddie he's like a stork. He's got these big, long legs, and he starts chasing this fish, which is it's very difficult to do that at Henry's, at Bonefish Flats. But Eddie able to do it with ease and casting the whole time as he's chasing this fish. And the fish is still continuing to rise, and now it's in its cruising mode, and it's cruising along. And after a while, they're so far down there, I don't know, it looked to me to be a half a mile away. And by this time, Eddie has drawn a crowd of people who are watching him try to get this fish. And now he and the crowd are way, way, way down there. I can barely, I certainly can't make out that it's Eddie or anybody else. It's just, I can see these small people way down there, a long way away. So he has chased this fish to the ends of the earth. And the guy was just relentless. And sure enough, after a long period of time, the entire crowd down there bursts into applause. And I realized that Eddie has finally caught this fish. And I'm just amazed by the whole demonstration. I mean, it was incredible. So later that day, I'm headed out to bonefish again. And I meet Eddie on the trail. And I said, I watched you get that fish this morning. And I said, it was unbelievable. Really fantastic display of fly fishing. And he goes, yeah, he says, I had to resort to the ant. And I understood completely.